You know how it is in a big international crisis. The first reports are always chaotic, right? A total mess. But what happens when two world powers tell two completely different stories about the exact same event involving these same soldiers? Well, that's what we're going to break down. So it all kicked off with this, just a total bombshell of a statement. It came from a very high-ranking Iranian official, Ali Larijani. And he didn't just suggest it, he stated it as a fact. American soldiers had been captured. They were now prisoners. A claim like that from someone in his position, it sends immediate shockwaves around the world. So right away, the whole world is asking, is this for real? If it is, why isn't the US saying anything? And if it's not true, well, what's Iran's game here? To really get to the bottom of this, we need to unpack the two completely conflicting stories that started coming out almost immediately. All right, first up, let's look at the story from Iran's perspective. This narrative is really being driven by one key figure, and the way he got the message out is, well, it's very 21st century. So who exactly is this guy, Ali Larijani? He's the head of Iran's Supreme National Security Council. So we're not talking about some low-level staffer or an unverified source, okay? This is a top-tier leader, which is exactly why his claims hit so hard and were taken so seriously. When he speaks, it's pretty much the official word from the Iranian government. But what's really interesting here is how he delivered the message. This wasn't some formal press conference. Larijani just started dropping these posts on social media one after another. He didn't just claim to have prisoners. No, he went further. He directly accused the United States of a cover-up, saying they were flat out lying by reporting these soldiers were killed. And then, that last post, it was in English. That's no accident. That's a clear signal this message was for the whole world to see. And he wrapped it all up with this really defiant statement. You see, this wasn't a tentative, maybe this happened kind of claim. It was presented as an undeniable truth that the US was desperately trying to hide. The tone is confident, it's confrontational, and it seems strategically designed to make people doubt the American government's credibility. Okay, so now let's pivot. Let's go to the other side of the world where a completely different reality was taking shape. While Iran was making all these claims on social media, the United States was telling its own story, and not with words, but with a very solemn and very public ceremony. The American response was something called a dignified transfer. It's a formal military ceremony for receiving the remains of service members who have died overseas. And the President of the United States, Donald Trump, was there in person. You really couldn't get a more stark contrast. The US put a very specific number on their loss. 6. Not an ambiguous several, like Iran had claimed, but 6 individual soldiers who they maintained were killed in Kuwait and were now being brought home. The official nature of the US account was undeniable. The ceremony happened at Dover Air Force Base, which is the main entry point for America's fallen service members. And the imagery was so powerful. You had flag-draped cases, a presidential salute, top cabinet members all there. Every single detail was designed to project honor, finality, and truth, a powerful visual answer to Iran's claims. So, let's just take a step back. We have two opposing stories from two powerful nations. They can't both be true. So what does this whole conflict actually represent? Here's the bottom line. Iran's narrative is all about capture, prisoners, and a U.S. cover-up. The U.S. account is about sacrifice and honoring fallen heroes. You see, these aren't just slightly different interpretations. They are totally mutually exclusive realities being presented to the world. And that gets us right to the heart of it. This is a perfect example of information warfare. Think about it. Iran's strategy of claiming prisoners, it creates uncertainty, it's a potential bargaining chip, and it causes a lot of psychological stress. The U.S. strategy counters that with this public display of solemn finality, aimed at showing national unity and control over the situation. Each side is fighting to make its version of events the accepted truth. Which leaves us with this final, really critical question. When you have official social media statements on one side and a formal state ceremony on the other, both delivered with absolute certainty, how do you figure out what's real? In a war of words like this, it's not just about who has the last word, but whose word you choose to believe.